Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. And this is, of course, the show where we're all just a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler, just talking about whatever we want to talk about in the areas of movies, a little bit of television, whatever else is on your mind. That's what we like to talk about. Of course, every morning on the John Campea Show, I save about 15 minutes to take some open questions. But here on Open Mic, I know you guys like to ask a lot. I love having the conversation, so that's all we do. And that's what we're going to do for the next 45 minutes or so. I got to cut today's show just a little bit short because I got a conference call with Google that I got to be on at about at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to cut today's show just a little bit short. So let's not waste any time and let's get right into the live questions. You guys have already sent in a whole ton of them. Let's get to it. The first one today comes to us from Kane, who writes, "Love the show. Thank you so much, Kane. Any theories on the kid in Deadpool 2? I think it's Kid Apocalypse. Evan Sabanur, since Fox believes in continuity, schmontinuity, it's possible. It is possible. Because we know, I mean, ultimately, that's what Cable is fighting against in his future. So that's possible. However, I don't think anyone is going to feel sympathy for Apocalypse. You know, it would be tough for us to feel sympathetic towards the kid if we know that kid eventually goes on to become Apocalypse. Because you're right. I mean, first of all, some of you are screaming at your computers right now. That's not how the comic book goes. I know, but this isn't the movies. You got to understand. Sorry, this isn't the comic books. This is the movies. Fox is continuity, schmontinuity. It doesn't matter what was in the other movies. None of that matters to Fox. They care on a movie-by-movie basis. They don't care about anything else. And if they wanted this kid to be Apocalypse, and this kid's going to be Apocalypse, it's possible, but I don't think so. Only because it would be very difficult for any of us to feel any sympathy for the kid. So, honestly, your theory's not horrible, and it's better than any theory I have, because I have absolutely no theory. I have absolutely no theory. I have no clue who this kid is. Now, for all I know, they've already announced who he is, and I just haven't remembered, or I haven't heard of it, but I don't know who he is. But that is one of the big questions that I get coming out of the Deadpool 2 trailers. Who's the kid? Who's that kid, and who's the Asian girl with the purple hair? Those are the two questions that I have. All right, let's move on here. Jordan Miller writes, tip for Fortnite. For those of you who follow me on social media, you know I've been playing Fortnite lately, and I suck at it. Build, my brother, build. Get quick at building walls is very key in gun battles. Also, 35 days, 3 hours, 42 minutes until Infinity War. We are counting down the days, and yeah, man, I'm even starting to look up some tip videos on YouTube about how to not suck at Fortnite. Because, believe me, I suck at Fortnite. If you come across me in Fortnite, just count it as an automatic kill. Just count it as an automatic kill for you, because I suck at it. But I'm going to try to get a little bit better. My goal is to get a top 10 finish. I haven't got a top 10 finish yet. I've gotten in like the top between 20 and 30 a number of times. I usually come in 20 or 30. But I've yet to crack top 10. My goal is to get top 10 and to get my first kill. Because every time I come across somebody, I die. Zizu writes, when are you seeing and reviewing Isle of Dogs? Probably this weekend. I'm not super stoked for it, but I'm going to go probably check it out this, probably tomorrow. Probably have my review up for it on the weekend is when I'll probably do that. Aaron Strelinski writes, what Hulk scene are you in? Are you technically canon now? Well, no, I'm certainly not canon. I'm in a couple of scenes, and, you know, a couple of people have been writing in saying that they found me, but you'll have to find the scenes. I'm not going to give it away. Maybe one name writes, whoever dies in Infinity War, I want them to go out with the Willem scream. Well, no, I love hearing the Willem scream in movies, but only as side things, right? I think it becomes a little bit of a distraction and a little bit dumb if they make it like with the main character going out. Like, I don't want to see a main character going out with, ah! I don't want to see that. That is not something I want to see. I do like catching the Willem scream in all the different movies that it's in, but I don't want to hear it in a big key moment like that. Let's see. Samuel Pole writes, I highly recommend and viewers watch An Open Secret, which is free on Vimeo. Personally, I'll never watch another Bryan Singer movie again. Look, it's very, look, all I'm going to say is this. It is very, very tricky when somebody makes a documentary, because you can watch two different documentaries by two different people who come out with two different agendas and get completely opposite points of view on it. Never base your personal worldview on one documentary made by one person. It's dangerous to do that, because anybody who wants to set out to make with a premise, so anybody who wants to start off with a thesis that This is what I think, and I'm going to go setting about proving it. You can pretty much prove anything you want. Now, I am not at all cutting the legs out from under an open secret. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is anybody who comes out with an agenda, and I'm not saying that filmmakers do or don't have an agenda. I'm just saying never form a worldview based on one documentary, because documentaries are made by human beings, and human beings all come to something with a point of view. That's, I think, one of the most wonderful thing about documentaries. It gives us another point of view to consider, but always keep in mind too, when you're watching a documentary, that it's being told from one particular point of view. And that's important to keep in mind. Let's see here. Maybe One Name writes, what's the number one moment in the MCU so far that you wish hadn't been shown in the trailers? Mine is driving to the prom scene in Spider-Man Homecoming. Oh, I have no idea. That's a very good question, but it's not one I would know off the top of my head. I would have to sit down and ponder that for a while. I don't mind that one. The one you're mentioning about Spider-Man Homecoming, I don't mind that one being in the movie at all, or being in the trailers at all. That one doesn't bother me. Not something I could sit here and hum and haw for 5 minutes, but not something I know off the top of my head. It's a really good question. So why don't you guys tackle that one? What are some of your moments in the MCU movies that you wish hadn't been in the trailers? Jump down to the comment section, let me know. All right, next one comes to us from Stephen Rowley, who writes, which has a better opening weekend, Tomb Raider or Pacific Rim 2? P.S. You the man. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. I gotta believe Pacific Rim. The opening weekend for Tomb Raider was horrible. Horrible. It still astounds me. If you had told me that Black Panther on its 5th weekend was going to make $27 million. First of all, that's a great number for a 5th weekend. Make no mistake about it. That's tremendous. But if you were to tell me before, a number of weeks ago, that on this 50th weekend, Black Panther was going to make $27 million, well then, easy Tomb Raider is going to beat that. $27 million is an easily beatable number. Super easily beatable number for a big IP property like Tomb Raider. Talking about Tomb Raider's not going to make $50 or $60 million opening weekend, but it should be able to beat $27 million, no problem. Open with $23 million. Horrible opening, which is kind of a reflection for the mediocre ad campaign they had. Anyway, I've got to believe, with all the skepticism I have about Pacific Rim, I got to believe Pacific Rim can open to more than $23 million. It's got to be able to open to more than $23 million. I mean, obviously nothing is a certainty anymore. If Tomb Raider can't come out and even make $27 million on its opening weekend, nothing is a certainty. But I got to believe Pacific Rim can at least beat $23 million. So I'm going to go with Pacific Rim on that. All right, let's move on here. Time Lords writes, your thoughts on the movie Brooklyn's Finest? Don't know it off the top of my head, to be honest. Time Lords writes, thoughts on the old Christopher Lee Dracula movies? I actually, Time Lords, you sent that in before, and I answered it on the on today's companion video. So check out today's companion video that I put up a little bit earlier. I did get to that question, so you can go check that out there. Maybe One Name writes, what's your favorite restaurant? My favorite restaurant in the world is a restaurant in Hamilton, Ontario, up on the mountain on a street called Upper Sherman, called Chicago Style. And it's an Italian restaurant, and it's also a pizzeria. Best pizza I've ever had. It is the classic Chicago-style stuffed crust pizza. It's like yay thick. They pour literally a full bucket of cheese into it with all the toppings. It's enough cheese to choke a moose. I mean, it's completely unhealthy. But it's also an amazing Italian restaurant. Back in the day, and I don't know if they still do this, but like when I started going there, they literally had these 3 little old Italian grandmothers. And I would go back into the kitchen and I see these 3 little old Italian grandmothers were their head cooks, making real Italian food. And it's my favorite restaurant in the world, Chicago Style in Hamilton, Ontario, up in Upper Sherman. It's owned by a guy named Pat. If you live in the area and you go in there and say, hey, John Campea said we should come here and check out this restaurant, he'll know who you're talking about. But that's my favorite restaurant in the world. Spencer Smothers writes, I would like to see the cameo in Deadpool be Kevin Feige. I mean, that would be cool, but I don't think Kevin Feige pointing out his head, because honestly, 90% of the movie-going audience would not recognize Kevin Feige if he popped up. So that would be really cool for you and me to see. But when they say a super secret special cameo, it's got to be something that everybody's going to recognize. So I wouldn't doubt it if like Kevin Feige did as a fun little thing, popped up in it. But it's not like Kevin Feige isn't somebody that the average person would even recognize. Like my mom's watching Deadpool and Kevin Feige pops up on screen. She ain't going to recognize him. So I don't know that that would be it, but it would be cool to see him make a cameo in there just as a little friendly thing. That would be neat. Let's see. Abrixas616 writes, what if Thanos wins versus the Avengers? And in a final post-credit scene, he snaps his fingers, a large grin on his face, black screen. Thanos will return in Avengers. Next title announced, Marvel Studios. They could. Look, I really think people who are familiar with the properties, I think we're putting way too much emphasis or importance or even glory on the finger snapping thing. I really do. I don't see it as important or all that as all that iconic. I don't see it as very important at all. I don't think it works. However, I'm saying I don't think it works prior to seeing the movie. Like maybe if I see the movie, it'll go, oh, the way this is set up, that works perfectly. Like, so that may happen. I'm having a hard time envisioning that working. So I honestly don't want it to end on that. I think that'll just piss some people off. I think it'll just piss off a lot of average moviegoers who is like that what? Like we just sat through this movie for 2.5 hours. We came out, we paid our $18 for our ticket, and you're going to end the movie with that? I just don't think that's the right way to go about it. Now, again, I'm saying that having not seen the movie. I make it 3/4 of the way through the movie going, oh man, the way they're setting this up, it would work like that. So I don't know for sure. I'm just giving my initial thoughts right now. I just don't think it's something that works in this context. Okay, let's move on here. Next question comes to us from Abraxas616 again. Mind blown. Well, look, there will be some insider baseball people who'd be very happy to see it. That's great. Again, I just don't think it's something that works. But again, my mind could be changed on that easily. Let's see. Last the Time Lords writes, everyone gives credit to George Lucas for Star Wars. I know he created it, but he only directed the episodes 1 through 4, episodes 5 through 6. 1 and 4, episodes 5, 5, 6. Episodes 5 and 6 were directed by Kirshner and Marquand, but they never get mentioned. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, Irvin Kershner, who directed Empire Strikes Back, does get a lot of credit. He does, quite often. It's Marquand who gets less credit. I think that's because more often than not, Empire Strikes Back is celebrated as the better movie over Return of the Jedi. I disagree. To me, Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars movie, but that's another issue for another time. I think the reason George still gets the credit for it is because this isn't a traditional movie. George Lucas was the studio with that movie. George Lucas was always in control. Nothing happened in the Star Wars movies. He was even on set most of the time. He was the absolute boss when it came to everything that happened in Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. He even had some disagreements with Kershner. But nothing ever happened in any of those movies that George didn't have a direct veto over or direct rubber stamp over. I mean, they were his movies. They were all his movies. He is the writer. He was the producer. He's the studio. He's the buck stop here. He's the buck stops here guy on all of them. That is not a normal movie. That is not normally how that works within a studio environment. But George kind of did it a very different way. And that's why when a lot of people talk about that stuff, most of the credit does go to George Lucas. And, rightfully so. They're his movies. He's the one who came up with them, and everything only happened and transpired the way he wanted it to go. Definitely Kershner had his influence on the film. Definitely Marquand had his influence on the films. But this, again, is a very unique situation that these films really were George Lucas's. All right, moving on. Next one comes to us from Hans Gruber, who writes, today's fun fact, the Ewok language is actually Mongolian. # technique critique. They got a Webby for. I didn't realize that. That's a very interesting thing. I'll have to check that out and look into that. See, you learn something new every day from your fellow film fans. Time Lords writes, what happened to Michael Mann? Is he still active? Oh, I have no idea, man. Just hop on IMDb and do a quick search for Michael Mann and see what's going on. I don't know anything backstory, though. Tom Lewis writes again, rank the Iron Man movies. I'd say 1, 3, 2. Yep, I agree. I'll go with that. 1 is clearly the best one. 2 is clearly, 2 is clearly the worst. Thus, that snugs 3 nicely between 1 and 2. So I agree with that. Harold Saxon writes, will there be a Harry Potter? Will there be a Harry Potter and the Hendersons? There's a mashup for you. Somebody make that poster. Harry Potter and the Hendersons. Somebody make that poster. Will there be a Harry and the Hendersons sequel? I don't think so. Now, then again, on the John Campea show earlier today, somebody asked if there would be a Escape Plan sequel. And I said, I can't see them doing that. And the movie made no money. It wouldn't do it. And of course, later I realized, wait a minute, somebody I know has a wife who is in that movie that's already been shot. So, I mean, there's that. For all I know, they've already made one. But, and I think there was some kind of straight to DVD sequel, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, do I think they'll make another Harry and the Hendersons? I don't think so, but hey, never know. Let's see. How far back do I got to go here? Here we go. Thomas writes, best Brosnan Bond movie. I say Work Is Not Enough. I think he meant The World Is Not Enough. And I'll go GoldenEye. GoldenEye to me is the best one. Partially because of the video game, but also Sean Bean. And I just really like the movie a lot. So I'll go GoldenEye. Will we get Johnny English 3? They're already shooting it. Actually, they've already shot it. Johnny English 3 is already shot. It will be coming out. Chris Martin writes, favorite concert you've been to? Favorite concert I've ever been to was U2 at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California, followed by, don't laugh, Weird Al Yankovic up in Canada. One of the best shows I've ever seen in my life, followed up by a John Williams concert. So those are my 3 favorites. Time Lords, who's the better cook in your house? You or Ann? Ann's actually a really good cook, so Ann for sure. Let's see. Abraham Ruiz writes, do you think the Soul Stone is with Adam Warlock? I don't think anything's with Adam Warlock. I don't think Adam Warlock has anything to do with the movie. And other than that, as I've said many times, I'm not speculating about the location of the Soul Stone. That's just one I'm just going to wait on. Koa1708 writes, why do theaters still have those seats at the front? No one wants to sit there and stare up at the screen. I never see anyone in them. Well, I mean, they're there because every once in a while they are used when the theater gets full. Now, most theaters, including at least good theaters, if you walk into a movie, you bought your tickets that doesn't have pre-assigned seating, which again, don't even get me going on the archaic, dark, back-asswards way of that doing things. Every theater should have pre-assigned seating. But anyway, still a lot of theaters don't. You buy a ticket, you walk in, and you realize, oh my God, the only seats left are these neckbreaker seats at the front. Most theaters, if you go back and say, hey, the only seats that are available at the front, they'll refund your ticket. But if it's a movie like Infinity War, or a Star Wars movie, or a DC movie, or some big event film, they may go, you know what, screw it, I just want to see this movie. And you'd rather let them have that option to take those seats than not have a seat there for them at all to even have a choice about. So those seats are there for that. Now, a lot of theaters, for instance, there's a theater chain in Los Angeles called ArcLight, the ArcLight Cinemas. And their front row seat is still a good seat because they back the seats up way from the screen, right? So even if you sit in the very front row, it's not a bad seat. You still get a good seat. And I think more and more you're seeing theaters being made in such a way, developing a philosophy, we don't want to have a bad seat in the house. And those are what the newer theaters I'm seeing being created kind of follow that theory a little bit. But again, most theaters, if you walk in and it's a big film and all that's left are the neck breakers, at least you then have the choice. The seats are there so you have a choice. I can choose to keep my ticket and take that seat and watch the movie even though I'm going to be watching it like this. Or I can go back out and get a refund, and they usually will give you a refund on that. Good question, though. Joel O writes, I know you're not a fan of the Iron Spidey suit, but don't you think he needs it to fight Thanos? Again, Joel, I've rejected that argument 15 times already. If you're going to make the argument, well, he needs it if he's going to fight Thanos, then why doesn't Black Widow have an Iron Spider suit? How's she going to fight Thanos without it? Why doesn't Hawkeye have a Iron Man Jr. suit? How's he going to fight Thanos without it? Why doesn't Falcon just get rid of the stupid wings and give him a full-blown Iron Man suit? I mean, how's he going to fight Thanos without it? So you can't apply that logic to Spider-Man and say, well, Spider-Man, who, by the way, has the power of the gods. I mean, he's super strength, super speed, super agility, super senses. He's far more than any human being. So if you're going to use that as an excuse for turning him into Iron Man Jr., well, he needs it to fight Thanos. Well, then you got to say that about every other character too. Every other character who isn't supremely superpowered and relies, is regular human, whatever, how come Tony's not making them Iron Man suits? Anyway, since other Avengers have upgrades to their suits, like Cap's new shield, Iron Man's new suit, Thor's hammer. Well, I mean, Thor, you don't need to have Thor have an Iron Man suit because he's Thor, God of Thunder. I mean, he can fight Hulk. I think he loses to Hulk, but he can fight Hulk. I mean, so yeah, he doesn't need an Iron Man suit. Cap, why not make Cap an Iron Man suit? Cap's outfit isn't made of vibranium. Why doesn't he make the Iron Captain suit? If he's going to fight Thanos, doesn't he need it? And again, I've already listed all the other guys. Like Rhodey, he's given him the War Machine outfit, so there's another Iron Man Jr. right there. Falcon, all he's got is the wings. Give him full body armor, man. Make him the Iron Falcon. And make the Iron Widow, and make the Iron Hawkeye. And yeah, so this whole argument about, well, Spider-Man needs it to fight Thanos. I've rejected that argument like 15 to 20 times because that doesn't make any sense. He is a super-powered being. He can lift a bus over his head. I mean, out of most of the Avengers, he needs that least of all, out of most of them, notwithstanding Hulk, notwithstanding Thor. So I reject that notion. I totally reject that notion. And look, man, if you're one of the people who likes the idea of Iron Man Jr., that's great. I'm not going to poo-poo on you for liking it. If that works for you, awesome. I'm just saying it does not work for me. It spits in the face of how great a character Spider-Man is, saying Spider-Man's not cool enough. That's Spider-Man. He's kind of a lame character. If we're going to make him cool, we got to make him Iron Man Jr. That's the only way to make him cool. To me, it's stupid. But if it works for you, awesome. But if you're going to ask me my opinion, I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Still a great character. I love Tom Holland as the character. I love Homecoming and all that kind of stuff. That's just that one thing I wish they didn't do. John De Silva writes, yesterday's Snapchat, I meant surprise scenes. I don't use Snapchat. Let me try this. Yesterday's Snapchat, I meant surprise scenes or Easter eggs in films. Sorry, The Monster in Hancock. YouTube will show the scene where it's in the movie. I'll be honest with you, John. I'm not quite sure what it is we're talking about, to be honest with you. Do me a favor, guys. Listen, I know sometimes you guys write in messages where you know what you're talking about. And maybe you're referencing a previous conversation. But you got to remember, I'm reading about 50 to 70 of these a day. So you got to give me a little bit more information and context because I'm reading. I feel bad, John, because you sent this in and I have no idea how to respond to it. Yesterday's Snapchat, I meant surprise scenes or Easter eggs in films. Sorry, I'm not. Clearly you're referring to another email or another message and I can't remember which one we're talking about. So I need more. You got to make sure you guys give me context because I feel really bad, John. You just sent me in this message and I can't answer it. So I feel bad about that, but yeah, try to give me a little bit more context. Alan Gonzalez writes, do you watch movies every day? I wouldn't say every day. I probably watch, on average, maybe about 23, 24 movies a day. So maybe 5 to 6 a week, but no, I wouldn't say I watch a movie every single day. I don't think so. Chris Martin writes, have you ever played Kingdom Hearts? I love the game. You know what? I've never played Kingdom Hearts. And I've never even seen anybody play Kingdom Hearts. Like there are some games I've never played that I've watched my buddies play tons of, but I've never even seen somebody play Kingdom Hearts. And it is crazy because it is a very popular game. It's crazy how often I hear it referenced and how often I hear it talked about. But I have never played Kingdom Hearts, nor have I ever even seen somebody play Kingdom Hearts. I don't even know what Kingdom Hearts is about. And yet I know it's a radically popular game. So maybe I should look into it a little bit. Aaron Bailey writes, maybe the problem with video game movies is that we have to call it that because it's based on the title of a game. They never just adapt it. Let me read that again. Maybe the problem with video game movies is that we have to call it that because it's based on the title of a game. They never just adapt it. Well, if you're suggesting that the problem is the title, I don't think that's the problem. If anything, it gives you a leg up. Having recognizable IP comes with value. There is value to it. But it can't 100% be relied on as the be-all and end-all. It gives you a head start, but you got to still build on top of that. You got to build a good marketing campaign, raise market awareness. You have to make a good film that word of mouth will spread about it and all that kind of. You got to be able to do all those things as well. But I really don't think that the issue with video game movies is the fact that they're video game movies. That's not the problem. The problem is more systemic than that and goes a lot deeper than we can just go into right now. But honestly, you might be onto something, Aaron. I don't think so off the top of my head, but who knows? Maybe you're onto something. I just don't agree right now. Let's see. ZOMG Ruler writes, why not have two DC film universes? Well, the bigger question is not why not have two, but is why you have to make a case to me about why you should continue the existing one, because the existing one is failing. There's just no way about it. Look, I'm sorry, no matter what you think about the DCEU, and I'm not talking to ZOMG Rule, I'm talking to everybody. No matter what you think of the DCEU, I've liked all the movies personally, you know that. But no matter what you think about it, there is a stone cold fact that we cannot get around. Justice League came out, which should have been the crown jewel of the DCEU. The movie that you bring together Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg. You bring all these characters together. It should have not necessarily hit $2 billion, but it should have been a contender for hitting $1.8, $1.9, $2 billion. It should have made $1 billion in its sleep. But the reality is, and this is a fact we cannot get around, the audience, it was a referendum to the audience, and the audience said, we are not interested in the DCU anymore. And Justice League ended up being the lowest performing of all the DCU films. Look, you can't emphasize that enough. That is huge. Imagine if Avengers Infinity War came out and it became the lowest box office draw of all the Marvel movies. And remember, when you're talking about box office, you're not just talking about dollar bills. You're talking about box office represents people, real people, you and me, flesh and blood people going, I want to go see this movie. That's why box office is important. Sometimes people poo-poo on the idea of talking about box office. It's like, why are you so focused on just the money? It's not, box office isn't about focusing on the money. Box office represents real flesh and blood movie fans deciding whether or not to go and watch that movie. And that is important. And what we saw with Justice League, with this existing DCEU, is that the fans went, we're not interested. We're not going to go. And Justice League makes $650 million. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, Black Panther made more in, I believe the 5, it might have been 4, but for argument's sake, let's say 5. Black Panther, a relatively unknown Marvel property, made more money in 5 days than Justice League did in its entire worldwide run. 5 days. The question is not, why not have two? The question is, why the hell would you continue this one that is clearly not healthy and not working and the audience has given up on? To me, that's the question. It's not why not do two. The question is, why would you want to continue this one? The audience has ditched it. They've given up on it. There's no coming back from that. To me, it's you got to reboot this thing, start a new one, or try doing all individual movies that are isolated from the other ones. That's the way they used to be. X-Men never used to have to be in a cinematic universe to work. X-Men just worked because it was a great movie. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2 didn't work because they were part of some big, huge, shared cinematic universe. No, Spider-Man was the only superhero in the world. And it worked and it was great. So why not do that? I don't see the purpose in throwing away so much money and muddying the brand and confusing the audience by trying to carry on two separate timelines and two separate cinematic universes. I just don't see the upside to it. I don't see the advantage at this point. So yeah, when you pose, and it's a fair question as the OMG rule, but when you pose the question, why not do this? I would throw the reverse question back is, why would you? What's the pro? What's the upside? Given the information that we have and that we know that's in front of us, what's the upside? There is no upside that I can see right now. Maybe you can. That's why we have a fan base, because sometimes we see things that other people don't see, and that's great. But yeah, man, I just don't see how you could do this with two. Entertainment Buddy writes, most likely flop, Aquaman, Shazam, or Wonder Woman 2. Well, Wonder Woman 2 won't flop. No way Wonder Woman 2 will flop. It may or may not make $800 million. It may or may not do as well as the first one, but I can't see it flopping. Aquaman, I don't necessarily think any of them will flop. I don't think any of them will be billion-dollar films either, but I don't think necessarily any of them will flop per se. Like, Aquaman's not going to make $300 million worldwide. It's going to make more than that, right? Shazam will make more than $300 million worldwide. I feel pretty confident about that. I don't think any of them will make tons of money, but I don't necessarily think any of them will flop. So if you're asking me which one is most likely to flop, maybe Shazam, because at least some people saw Aquaman already in Justice League, and I thought it was a good incarnation of Aquaman. I liked Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I think he's a good Aquaman. So there he's got a leg up over Shazam. So I'll go the most likely. Not that I think any of them will flop, but the most likely to flop will probably be Shazam. Anthony Pham writes, I love the LeBron chalk clap, but with Coke and Deadpool too. Yeah, I thought that was great. I enjoyed that a lot myself as well. Let's see. Trevor Riches writes, hey, John, would love to hear some of your thoughts on my all-time favorite movie, Avatar. I like Avatar. I have some of the same criticisms about Avatar that a lot of other people have. I mean, there's nothing really unique about it other than the technology and the visuals used. I mean, it's Dances with Wolves in space. And I mean, James Cameron himself once referred to it as that. It is plot point by plot point, beat by beat. It is Dances with Wolves. I mean, like, it is stunning how similar to Dances with Wolves it is. And, and Pocahontas and Fern Gully and a few other movies as well. It's not a tremendously original film, but I really quite liked it. I thought it deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. There are some people who thought it deserved to win. I was totally against it winning. I just had several issues with it, but I like the movie. I like it quite a bit. And, I dig the film. It's a fun film. It's got a message. It's acted particularly well. The technology in it was stunning for its time, and still today it holds up. And I'm very curious to see the next one. Not in the conversation for me of all-time favorite, but it is for you, and I'm glad. You must be very excited. We're getting like 3 more are on the way, or 4 more are on the way, whatever. However, like the 17 more Avatar movies that James Cameron's making are on the way. Let's see. Dim Sum 05 writes, I wonder if Red Skull could be done with digital makeup to prevent spending 18 hours in the makeup chair. Here's the thing. Maybe you could save 18 hours in the makeup chair, but you're adding a lot more hours to the digital stuff of it. It is less hindrance. It takes less time to get the actors in the makeup. If the makeup looks right and looks good, it takes less time to do that than trying to do it in post-production later. You'd actually be saving time and you'd be saving money. If you can do it practically, you'd be saving time and money there. If you can do it practically. If you can't, then yeah, digital is the way to go. And they could probably do the makeup a little faster today than they did before. They're always improving their techniques. Felix G writes, Schwert Farms, fantastic beats and where to find fantastic beats. Shroot, that's right, the Shroot, that's right. Ryan Wilson in The Office. Fantastic beats and where to find them. Nice call out, man. I like that. That was good. Ray Valero writes, John, which superhero would you want protecting your city and why? Me personally would be Flash. Keep up the great show. Well, I mean, Superman. Flash can be beat. Superman can't be beat. I mean, generally speaking. I mean, Superman is omniscient, basically. That's why when you get these other stories like Injustice Gods Among Us, it's everybody falls in line with Superman. So, I mean, that's an easy one. Superman. He's not my favorite superhero, but if I want one, like, who's going to threaten my city if Superman is looking over my city? Answer, nobody. Nobody's going to threaten my city if Superman's looking over my city. So that's the one I would want to go for. Again, not saying he's my favorite superhero, but it's definitely the one I would want watching over my city. David Biloris writes, I'm a manager at a movie theater, and why don't people like reserved reclining seats? We've got so many complaints about it. Oh my God, I've never heard a single complaint from anybody that I personally know. Never a single complaint about anybody, from anybody I know, about reserve seating or about leather reclining seats. I've never heard one. What's with all this comfort and convenience? Who wants to be bothered with this comfort and convenience? I've never heard anybody complain about it. All I can assume is that the people you've spoken to are stupid or don't understand what it is they're getting. Yeah, I just don't understand why anybody would complain about all this damn comfort and convenience. This is terrible. This is awful. What are you guys doing? Comfort and convenience? Who wants this? Did I ask for this? I don't know. Like I said, clearly you're having some people come to you and talk to you. I don't know a single person personally in my own small sphere. I don't know a single person who's ever complained about that stuff myself. So that's a quandary of a joke, man. I don't know. Killing Joke Quinn writes, Yo, Geo, what is the premise of Supernatural? Two brothers whose lives were forever affected at a very young age by a yellow-eyed demon that sent their father, that ended up in their mother getting killed, and their father went on a lifelong obsession about finding, tracking down, and killing anything supernatural, and raised his boys in the same vein. So these two boys, Sam and Dean Winchester, grow up as hunters, and we pick up the story with them now being older. They're adults now, and they pick up the family business, killing monsters, saving people, killing monsters. That's the family business. That's what they do. That's the basic premise of Supernatural. And every season has its own main storyline, but that's the basic idea of it, and it's awesome. I love Supernatural. Chris Martin writes, favorite Man of Steel fight scene? Jor-El versus Zod or Superman versus Zod fight 1 or 2? I actually think my favorite one is when he's fighting the two Kryptonians. One of those first scenes when he's fighting, I'm forgetting the girl's name, but General Zod's right-hand lieutenant. Forgetting her name. So her and the big dude, and that might be my favorite fight. That one to me is just like, oh my God! Like I was just completely riveted to that. That one might be my favorite one, to be honest with you. Anthony Pham writes, what do you think of the theory that Pepper goes to help Spidey in Iron Man's suit so that she's the one that gets punched by Thanos in the trailer and dies? Honestly, I don't think they're going to have Pepper play that big of a role in it that she would do that. If so, that goes along with my theory that she does die in the movie. I have a theory that Pepper dies in the movie. Now, before everybody goes, but John, she's listed in IMDb, and we've seen that she's on set of Avengers 4. Yeah, I get that, but there's still a potential 1,000 other explanations for that. Dream sequence, vision, flashback, alternate reality. I mean, there's lots of different potential things for there, so I'm not worried about that at all. I have a theory that Pepper dies, and I made a video the other day about why I think she dies in Infinity War, why she's one of the people who dies in Infinity War. I don't know that I buy that particular theory that she sneaks on the Iron Man suit and that's her getting punched. I don't think I buy that, but it is consistent with other theories that I have, so it's possible. I mean, it would have her dying as a hero, doing something heroic to save the person she loves, being Iron Man, trying to keep him out of it and taking his place. It's possible. Totally possible. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, I want Nathan Fillion cameo in Deadpool 2. Knows both Ryan and Morena. I think that's her name. But what's the cameo though? Like Nathan Fillion as he's just an actor. I mean, if Nathan Fillion had played Green Lantern, then yes, him popping up as a cameo, that would make some sense. But I don't see most people caring that Nathan Fillion pops up as a cameo. I don't see that being some big secret cameo. Like, That'd be a neat little thing, but not with a lot of weight. Don't get me wrong. I love Nathan Fillion. I think he's the best. I think he's great. I love Nathan Fillion, but in this context, I don't see how that's some big secret cameo. That's just an average cameo. It's just some random dude popping up. I mean, if the Firefly, okay, if the Serenity flew down out of the sky and Captain Mal, Nathan Fillion, came out and looked around for a second and said, "Hey, friend, are you drinking that?" And then takes Deadpool's coffee and then flies away. That's a cool secret cameo kind of a thing. But just Nathan Fillion showing up, I don't see how that would be a big enough deal to justify all the chatter. So I don't know. I don't really see it. Akeem writes, if I can find Akeem again, because a whole bunch more questions came up. Remember, guys, I've only got about 4 more minutes. It was a different one. Where did Akeem go? Here we go. 4 more minutes. And don't worry, guys, any questions I don't get around to, they will be answered in the companion video tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. So if you sent in a question, it doesn't get answered live. I know normally I do these shows about an hour long. For those of you who are late joining us, I mentioned at the top of the show, I have to cut today's show just a little bit short because I got an important conference call with Google that I got to be on. So yeah, I got about 4 more minutes here. So let's see if I can get a couple more done here. Akeem writes, at AMC, I refill my soda. Sodas are filled. As far as I know, there's no refills. So I guess I'm stealing. Do you do this? No, but I think if you get, look, I could be wrong about this, but I think if you get a large soda, I think you should be allowed to refill it. I think. I know if you get a large popcorn, I think they allow you free refills on the popcorn as well. Double check that. Otherwise, I mean, look, you shouldn't do it. If they do consider it stealing, you shouldn't do it, clearly. But look, I always get the largest size soda, and I don't need any more soda. Once you get through one of these large sodas, you don't need any more soda. So I don't do it because I'm not thirsty. Even if I get through the entire thing, which many times I don't get through an entire large, but even if I do get through it, I'm not sitting there, wow, I'm still really thirsty. No, that's not me. So that's not a situation I've faced. All right, final question of the day comes us from Tommy Hartsock, who writes, I live in Lincoln, New England, a fairly small town, and all of our theaters have pre-assigned seating. Where are you finding theaters that don't have that? I agree with you that it's silly not to do that in this day and age. Look, man, dude, Tommy, there are still some places in this country that are completely ass backwards and living in the dark ages and still have, think going to the movie should be a free-for-all. Whenever you, other than flying Southwest, whenever you buy a plane ticket, a concert ticket, go to the theater, go to a sporting event, go to frickin' anything, you get your seat. And yet, for some reason, the movie theaters, there's still a bunch of movie theaters that think, no, let's just open the doors and have everybody rush in like cattle and fight to find a seat. And heaven help you if you're going to opening night of Avengers Infinity War and you got to show up 4 hours early just to stand there like a moron in line for 4 hours just so you don't have to get one of those neck breaker seats that we were talking about at the beginning of the show, right? Completely ass backwards way of thinking, completely ass backwards. It's so funny that so many countries in the world have been doing this for like 10 years. Have had pre-assigned seating for 10, 15 years. And in the United States and Canada, by the way, so far behind. So far behind. Now, it's changing. We are getting like places like in New England and even here in LA, more and more theaters now are adapting to pre-assigned seating. Thank goodness. But it just amazes me how far behind the curve we are. It's crazy. Anyway, all right, guys, that is all the time I have for today. Again, don't worry, guys. If you sent in a question after Tommy's, I will get to it. It'll just be on tomorrow's companion video. Make sure you come back and check in on that. Guys, thank you so much. I love being able to be a part of this community where we get to stand around our virtual water cooler and talk about movies. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you guys who sent in these super chat questions. Number one, you keep the conversation going. Number two, you support the channel, and I'm really, really grateful for that. Thank you so much. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of Open Mic. We'll be back again tomorrow morning with the John Campea Show. Make sure you come in, check in with us at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That'll do it for now. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.